Oh yes, album art. A delicate art which the masses can all agree upon. Speaking to each individual with a different message or conveying the music which it comes with. You, sir, do you have an appreciation for album covers?
I do not get paid enough for this, go away.
Well, how about you?
I really love the Blue album by Weezer. The shade of blue just speaks to me like no other album cover could.
Ah, I see. No matter your taste in album covers, we can all agree that every album is a piece of art in its own respect. So let's find out about the art of album covers. Over the years, I've noticed a particular set of patterns that may factor into what makes the album art great. I realise that they can be divided into three specific groups, those being icon status, simplicity, and uniqueness. So let's begin with when discussing whether an album cover fits into the icon status, there are a few factors that I believe it could have to fit within this category. Those being the greatness of the album tracks, the ability to immediately be recognised, and its memeability. It's pretty obvious, of course, that for any album cover to be iconic, it obviously must have great music behind it, otherwise it would be left into obscurity. Some album covers which come to mind, of course, would be Hounds of Love by Kate Bush, because it's Kate fucking Bush, obviously. I'm running up that hill, baby! Making a deal with God, baby! Woo! Unknown Pleasures by Joy Division also comes to mind because it's able to cross into both having great album tracks and having the ability to immediately recognise it upon seeing it because of the album cover. But also the fact that this one album cover has the ability to transcend all forms of merchandise, from t-shirts, posters, shoes, mugs, to bathrobes, but also how you could potentially see anybody wearing a t-shirt of it on the street. From middle-aged blokes, goth girls, or that one hipster who'll ask you to name at least 5 songs of any band you listen to, because he's so far up his own arse. Other album covers that I'd fit into the icon status category based on memeability, but also having great tracks of course, is Ex-Military by Death Grips. Because of how people have been able to create meme parodies of it online. Another example of this also being Ever Since by Blade. Because you drainers like a good giggle, don't you? But I all think we know what album cover takes the crown for memeability. Ladies and gentlemen, the Blue Album by Weezer. I think it's truly a feat without any hint of irony to be able to be recognisable just by the silhouette alone, and be so easy to deconstruct and parody in different formats. This one album cover of 4 guys standing in front of a blue background has managed to take Gen Z by storm, 28 years on from the album's original release. There's just something so bizarrely funny about this album cover, which has managed to create such a cult-like status around it. And with that, I conclude this section on icon status album covers. On to the next category. Simplicity is very self-explanatory. The album cover has little to no design on it, and yet remains extremely iconic and memorable despite this. This expression of minimalism perhaps encourages us to focus on the music itself. But I think simplicity in an album cover can provide other benefits, such as grabbing the interest of potential listeners, perhaps creating curiosity around the album, and encouraging you to listen to it to find out what it's about, what it sounds like. It could even introduce you to a new band or artist if you've never listened to them before. Some examples include Echo 2K's Immaculate album, which is literally just the estimated sign symbol, which is used to estimate the contents of something on packaging in real life. The simplicity of it pretty much etches itself into your brain, and you'll be more than likely to remember it for the rest of your life, because there's no other album cover which has ever used this before. Another album cover in the simplicity category, which relies on a symbol, is Selected Ambient Works 85 to 92 by Aphex Twin. If you've never listened to the album before, then you'll definitely have at least seen the Aphex A logo floating around on either TikTok or being worn by people on the high street. I was in a similar situation with this. I'd been constantly seeing the Aphex A logo everywhere I went, or online, but I'd never listened to any of his music before. That was until my friend Bon recommended Selected Ambient Works 85 to 92 to me one day, and I could never be more thankful for such a great recommendation. Shoutouts to Bon, by the way, he's a real one. Some other examples that come to mind would be White Pony by Deftones. Like, just look at it. It's a free-to-use clip art cutout of a horse that the band found online. Considering Deftones' history as a nu metal / rock band, the first thoughts that may come to mind would be, what did this album have to do with horses or ponies? What made them choose the minimalist background? Granted, upon further research you may find out that it's actually a drug reference, but to any first-time listener, the simplicity of it would be enough to intrigue people perhaps. I think the king of simplicity album covers, however, is also the king of maximalism, and that is the one and only Kanye West. The obvious album cover being Yeezus, Kanye's industrial middle finger to the mainstream, the music industry, and fashion houses alike. It's literally just a CD in a see-through case. Kanye obviously thinking though, fuck it man, these heavy-ass synths will be enough to blow their minds. The other obviously being Donda, which is literally just a black square. I think Kanye just knows at this point that he can create an iconic album with little to no album art, either sending the clear message that music doesn't need visual art to go with it anymore, you can still make it off of good ass music, or just your typical Kanye fuckery, who knows. An honourable mention to Foreign Exchange by RX Papi. This was my first time listening to his music, so I didn't know what to expect. The first thing which came to mind was, oh hey, that's the New York Yankees logo, maybe there's going to be some New York drill or something. I was intrigued. Then 12 Stout Street came on, and I was wrong. So wrong.
I used to wake up in my room in the morning, put on my dirty shoes in the morning. Heard mama crying last night, think the lights finna go out.
The final category is how I've discovered a lot of new music which I hadn't listened to before, and I honestly think that this category could well be how a large amount of other people discover new music as well. The basis of uniqueness is that it has to stand out to the audience. It could stick in your mind for ages, or make you stop and look at it for a while, as it grabs your interest purely by its visuals, before you've even listened to it. Album covers in the uniqueness category are kind of a wild card compared to the other two. It doesn't necessarily have a specific feature like the other two categories. Simply put, if the album cover is able to catch your interest and get you to listen to it, then it fits within the uniqueness category. Some examples that come to mind would be Wolf Girl by Machine Girl, because when I first saw this album, I was like, holy fuck, what is this? Is it a soundtrack to some Japanese monster movie, or to some weird furry hentai? Nevertheless, I started listening to it on YouTube because it piqued my interest. I immediately regretted my decision, however, as it just sounds like a bunch of cartoon sound effects mashed together. I guess you could say I judged the book by its cover. Other examples which come to mind are Death Metal by Panchico, because of the rugged, low-budget look about it which got me intrigued originally, so I wanted to find out what it sounded like. Others, like Rainbow Bridge 1 by Cemetery, because of how strange it looked to me at the time, and then it all made sense gradually once I started listening to the rest of the Haunted Mound discography. The last album cover which I think fits within the uniqueness category is Utopia. No, not that one. Utopia by Bjork. In fact, there have been a lot of her albums with artwork which stood out to me. She seems to have had a talent for it, to be honest, but I considered Utopia to be the most interesting of the bunch. I think it was purely the alien makeup she had chosen which made me just stop and look at it for a few minutes, and then I started to notice the little details like the pearls on her face, the tiny little alien creature huddled up against her neck, and then the weird flute instrument she was holding. And I think even listening to the album was just such a great experience. It had elements of old Bjork projects mixed in with electronic production from Arca. It was a great listen all around. On that note, I highly recommend you listen to Utopia and the rest of Bjork's discography. Please go do that ASAP. I'm watching you. In conclusion, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and maybe you start thinking about what album covers you like fit into what category. In fact, why not make your own album art chart? Here's the template to get you started. Go crazy. Besides that, I must get back to looking at the fine works in this prestigious gallery. As always, more content comes soon, so stay tuned. Goodbye, friends.